The midday sun beat down on the Egyptian desert. Sweat plastered Dr. Emily Carter's shirt to her back. Exhaustion tugged at her, but she pushed on. She brushed away dust, revealing the corner of a stone slab.
This tomb could hold the answers we seek.
Days later, Emily and her team finally reached the inner chamber. Hieroglyphs covered the walls, depicting ancient rituals and gods. In the center, a sarcophagus lay half open, its occupant long turned to dust. Emily's heart pounded as she noticed a glint of gold within the skeletal hand. Carefully, she pried the object loose.
It's an amulet, a stunningly intricate piece of craftsmanship. The golden serpent coils around a crimson gemstone. Its eyes seem to gleam with an inner light.
Little did they know this discovery would unleash a terror beyond their wildest nightmares. Emily traced the serpent's scales with her fingers, mesmerized. She'd never encountered anything like it. The craftsmanship was exquisite, ancient, yet perfectly preserved. The ruby eye seemed to pulse faintly, like a beating heart. As she held it, a shiver ran down her spine, a sudden cold in the desert heat. She brushed it off as fatigue. She had been working too hard.
Back at the camp, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. I kept the amulet close, drawn to its strange energy.
That night, the nightmares began. Whispers slithered through her dreams, a cold dread seeping into her bones. She dreamt of the serpent, its ruby eyes burning bright, a voice hissing her name. She awoke with a gasp. The feeling of unseen eyes watching her lingered. The next day, the unsettling feeling intensified. The wind seemed to whisper her name, the shadows stretching unnaturally long. Her team, usually jovial, grew quiet, their faces pale and drawn. Even the usually vibrant desert seemed to dim, shrouded in an oppressive silence. Emily tried to convince herself it was the heat, the exhaustion playing tricks on her mind, but deep down, a primal fear began to stir.
That night, the whispers in my dreams grew louder, more insistent. The serpent from the amulet coiled around me, its ruby eyes boring into my soul. Its voice, cold and ancient, spoke of a hunger that needed to be fed, a debt that needed to be repaid.
Emily woke up in a cold sweat, the feeling of suffocating dread clinging to her. Section 4, The Presence.
I tried to bury myself in my work, desperate to ignore the growing fear.
But the presence was relentless. Objects moved inexplicably. Shadows twisted into grotesque shapes. The whispers became voices, murmuring just beyond the edge of her hearing. Her team, once enthusiastic, was now on edge, their faces pale with terror.
One by one, my team packed up and left, driven by an unseen fear they couldn't explain. Soon I was alone. Alone with the whispers, the shadows, and the growing certainty that I had unleashed something ancient and evil. The amulet felt heavy in my hand, its warmth replaced by an icy chill that seemed to spread through my veins.
Section 5. Trapped. Desperation clawed at Anya. She tried to leave, to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the camp, but every path she took led back to the excavation site. It was as if the desert itself was holding her captive, an invisible force preventing her escape. The sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of blood orange and purple. A cold wind picked up, whipping sand into a frenzy.
Then, from the depths of the tomb, a low growl echoed, sending shivers down my spine. The ground vibrated beneath my feet. The air grew thick with the smell of decay and something else, something ancient and evil. I stumbled back, my heart pounding against my ribs. I was trapped.
Section 6. No escape. She turned to run, but a cold, unseen hand clamped around her wrist. She screamed, struggling against the grip, but it held her fast. Her blood ran cold as a voice, raspy and filled with malice, whispered in her ear.
You cannot escape your destiny.
The amulet pulsed against her skin, its ruby eye glowing with a malevolent light. Anya was dragged towards the open mouth of the tomb, towards the darkness that awaited within. Her scream was swallowed by the desert wind, a single desperate cry lost in the vast emptiness. The night fell, silent and absolute, hiding the horrors that had been unleashed.